diving. Hope comes and stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Hello and welcome to Raw Recovery, a Trudging Together podcast. My name is Dion Miller and I will be your host today. Welcome back to another episode of Raw Recovery. I'm very excited to have I'm always searching for males. For some reason, it's easy to get females on to tell their stories, but it seems to be harder for males for some reason. I think it has to do with emotional sobriety. All right, so I just love it when I come across friends that are a lot like me, that are willing. I love having males on that are willing to share their feelings like I do. And today I'm gonna introduce you a friend of mine. His name is Johnny, and I know him from some certain groups around, but we've gotten to know each other really, really well. I don't know his story. I know a little bit about him, but just enough to be able to do this portion, right? So, Johnny, thank you very much for taking your time to come on today.
Hey, thank you, Dion. I appreciate that.
It's good to have you. Welcome.
Yeah.
So, we all know what kind of happens from here. This is not about Dion at all. So, I'm gonna go ahead and release control here, and I'm gonna go ahead and give it on over to Johnny. Johnny, it's your show. Welcome to Raw Recovery.
Hey, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with I guess where it started.
Okay.
Where the whole thing.
Sure.
I just launched into it. So I had a pretty traumatic childhood.
Okay.
When I was 4. So both my parents were alcoholics.
All right.
I think I was lucky they weren't drug addicts.
Okay.
You always gotta view it somewhat positive. But kind of what happened when I was 4, my mom ran a red light with my brother and I in it, so we both almost died in a car wreck. So I have like a big scar on the back of my head. My brother was bleeding. It was this whole thing. So that caused us trauma to begin with, and I forgot. I'm an identical twin as well, so I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I have a twin brother who I
Was
share.
he the one in the car?
We were both in the car. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. He was the other one. And I presume he's okay, right?
Yeah, he's all right. Yeah.
Okay. Because people are wondering that.
You could tell us apart. He's got all these scars on his neck.
Oh man.
Yeah, so he can't grow any hair here, and there's like a scar on his face. So we're not super identical because of that.
Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. But yeah, so we he doesn't remember it. I do. He had there's a lot of blood. I always remember I had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shirt I really liked, and I couldn't. They had to cut it out. You know how they have to cut the stuff off. Like, no, not my shirt.
Yeah.
As a kid.
Man. Lost your favorite shirt.
Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty bad, and so that traumatized us. And then our father was abusive while we were young. He used to hit us and stuff. And my mom finally, and usually it was like I think looking back, he was probably drinking when he did it. But my mom she was like, look, if you ever do that again, I'm calling the cops. And so I'm happy my mom drew the line there.
Protected you. And because it's your parents' job to protect you.
Yeah. So it was nice of her to do that. So we, that was like, youth, I guess. That was, we kind of grew up. It was a little embattled.
Okay.
And I was a kid that just broke his bones all the time and everything.
All right.
One of those guys.
So you were an adventurous kid falling out of trees. And...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What was it? Yeah, I've broken my arm only twice.
Okay.
And then lot of concussions. I played football and basketball, skateboarded, all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a lot of concussions, a lot of forgetful days. So we also had when I was young, one of my best friend, and then eventually we moved together to Denver.
Okay.
And he when we were in fourth grade, he was sitting next to my brother in class, and he suddenly started having strokes. They didn't know exactly what happened, but he couldn't write.
Yeah.
He has a rare brain disease called moya moya.
Okay.
And he basically, it's like the blood vessels on your brain aren't correct.
Okay.
So then it clots get in there and causes.
Yeah.
So he had suddenly had I forget the exact number of strokes, but he lost everything. Like for a minute or for a little bit, he didn't know how to like walk or read again.
Yeah.
He had to relearn everything, and it actually all came back amazingly. And kind of how it relates to recovery is he. So when he came back, like of course we're still best friends, and they started prescribing him like painkillers and stuff. And,
okay.
All of like because he would have these migraines, and they gave him ADHD. Here's the Adderall kid,
Okay.
So I already was a rebel. We would always rebel together, me and him.
Well, yeah, you were already. You can usually tell the rebellious ones because they break a lot of bones and have concussions.
Yeah, so we were like in talented and gifted, which was like the smart kid classes, and we quit because we were like, oh, we don't want to do that. Eventually, they forced me back into those classes. They're like, you can't be. They're like, you're not challenging yourself. You're clearly like not. You need something. And I was like, okay. So then I went back into those classes in high school, but I was still in them in middle school too. But we kept trying to quit and I don't know, be rebellious. It was just looking back.
That's alcoholic behavior for you, right there.
Really shit. You're like, what are you doing? Just
what are you talking about? I don't want to be
like,
guys.
I don't want to do that because you want me to.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. What does that do?
Anarchy, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had like an Ozzy Osbourne sweatshirt. And
yeah.
Bob Marley with a gun sweatshirt.
Right. Bob Marley with guns.
Well, yeah. So yeah, we would sneak around, and his mom was an alcoholic.
Okay.
And she used to have a lot of liquor.
Yeah.
In her little bar area. Because my parents, I was too scared of my dad to try to steal alcohol.
If he found you, he would have beat you to a bloody pulp.
Yeah, if we were, and he would know right away. So we'd go over for sleep. He knew when he picked me up from the sleepovers. He's like, "What the hell were you doing all night?
Yeah.
Why are you so fucking tired? Why are you so?" I was like, "It's good. We were up late playing video games."
Yeah.
But it was just funny that he was like, "Why the fuck are you so tired?" And he like knew right away. I was like, "Okay."
He knew.
As a kid, you don't think your parents know, but they knew.
Yeah.
We used to sneak. I remember our first drink. We tried to drink a beer. And it was gross. We're like, man, this tastes like it's horrible. And so what we did was took it was Diet Coke and vodka. We would just mix together in this little red cup.
Yeah.
And we drank that. And I feel like we felt it pretty quick. We were in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And we both didn't like the feeling.
No?
I remember that.
Wow.
Okay. Surprising. What we did like was getting high. So we were get weed from these kids. Yeah. And we would sneak off onto this little hillside and get high. And that was the jam for a while. My friends and I, we were always getting stoned, like all the chances we could get. And it was like back when weed wasn't so strong then.
Yeah. It was back when we had what do we call it? Swag.
Yeah. Oh, I love swag. You just kind of felt dumb.
Yeah.
Like you didn't think. And that was the big thing, was I was always overthinking. Yeah. And I was in my head beating myself up or overthinking situations. And it was nice to smoke swag and just be like, which I guess later alcohol would do for me. But yeah, I did that for a while. And then in high school, a lot of the friends I had a lot of friends. I mean,
Okay.
I still do. So in high school, I never really went to parties, but I did like smoke weed. A lot of my
You,
friends were,
well, you didn't go to parties because you were at home smoking weed.
yeah, I
Weed does that
watching.
to you.
We'd watch like Adam Sandler, or we'd watch really bad movies, not Adam
Yeah.
Sandler. We just watch shitty movies
Yeah.
and laugh off, and it was like honestly, it was so much fun. Like it just you could make a whole night of it. We had like these 2 shitty TVs,
Yeah.
and we would have one hooked up to the N64, and we would have the other just like playing some bad horror
Yeah.
movie, Bruce Lee. Like we would go to the video stores going out of business and get all the videos for sale.
Yeah.
You know, like 50 cents or $1, and you just clean up. And it was anything. We're like, I don't even care what this
Yeah.
movie's about. And we would get stoned and watch that, play N64, and just laugh our asses off.
Yeah.
And of course, eventually, though, the drugs, you start trying new stuff.
Yeah,
It's like,
because you start to build a tolerance, and
yeah,
it's not as fun anymore.
yeah. And so we eventually went to some of my friends, so they started selling more weed, and we were like, okay. And the selling weed part and who I associated with, I was a really great basketball player. Good, it was okay. It wasn't great. I mean, anyway. My brother and I, because we hung out with the drug dealers, they didn't let us on the team. They just flat out told my brother that.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. Like shit, like you're not gonna make, they're like, we don't. And I was like, man, like the son knew who was on the team. I was like, that kid's a snitch.
Yep.
I was like, just let us, like, we're good. And the basketball team went 0-28 that year.
Oh.
I thought, I was like, what? Well, of course, if you don't
you didn't let us on the team.
Yeah, you didn't let the weed smokers on the team. Of course, they're gonna suck. So we ended up, but our friends, when they started selling more drugs, of course, the people they're buying from was like, hey, we got opium here, like you could sell that at this school. And so they ended up, they were like, it was just heroin. I mean, it's just black tar heroin. They would call it, somehow they rebranded it as opium.
Yeah,
Same shit.
I was gonna say, okay, now it was heroin.
Yeah, I tricked kids, so then all these kids started doing heroin at my school. And quickly, 2 of my best friends got arrested.
Yeah.
They got busted. This kid was an idiot. He was doing cold calls to sell drugs. I don't know. It was like he was like a fucking. It was like look at. I was like I didn't know that's how he got caught until I was like.
He's calling
30.
people's houses, fucking.
Yeah, my friend.
He was like, your daughter home? I'd like to picture some drugs.
Yeah, I was like, I never knew how he got caught. And I was like, well, I just never asked.
Yeah, caller ID is how he got caught.
I was like, he was doing cold call. It's like, yeah, bro. He's like, that's the dumbest shit. I was like, that kid's an
That's
idiot.
a good reason to stop smoking weed.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then so he got caught. It was for heroin actually. When they got caught, heroin. Weed. They had weed heroin on him.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, cocaine wasn't like a thing at my school, but so that was our senior year. They all got busted, and then I had a friend involved with all of us. He died in a car wreck.
Okay.
And it was set. So kind of this triggers more events where they were all drinking. They were going down to the corner store to get cigarettes. Because that's what you do. And he ended up dying and getting impaled on a tree, and his best friend was behind him.
Yeah.
They saw, so that scarred him. And sadly, and we were all friends since we were in preschool.
Yeah.
So we were sandbox best buddies, and he died on the tree. And then his best friend, one of my friends, ended up killing himself by suicide by cop.
Yeah.
When we were in college.
Wow.
So it just kind of, and that all triggered, and another, it started like, right there at the end of high school. Everyone started just dropping off. Like it was, I had another friend die on his motorcycle, driving home from a party.
Yeah.
So there's all these signs that like maybe I shouldn't keep drinking or keep, doing what I was doing. But at the time, I was just smoking a lot of weed and going to school and stuff. And I was like, I'm fine. And my experience with alcohol was pretty tame, where I would do, I used to. It was 2008, so financial crisis just hit. Okay. Nobody was hiring. So I was like, I need to pay. My brother and I were like, we need money for weed.
Yeah, we need money for weed.
We're like, we will do any job. Like, we will do any job. And so we started cleaning up dead mice at this facility, this like rink, this ice rink and soccer rink. And when we did that, we started rolling up this turf, and they were like, "You're hard workers. Like, we like it." And we would just drink after that.
Yeah.
Friend that gave us the job, he was 27, and so he would just buy the beers, and we would just eat McDonald's after we did this like hard work, just like busting ass, and then you just
like drink a beer, do, right?
Yeah, like adults do. I was like, okay, this is cool. And then I had some experiences. Like it's I remember what anytime I like I started getting alcohol from my friend's sister to like drink with my girlfriend at the time, and both of them would just get like way too drunk.
Yeah.
And that was like kind of my experience. So then it was like I would do that, and I remember it wouldn't be like super fun. Like I would drink, and it would just be like I kind of would just like get sloppy.
Yeah.
And I remember she would cry, and I was like, like the match of it was bad. Like, looking back, I'm like, what was fun about that? I guess it's because we had sex. That was the fun part. Mm-hmm. You get drunk and have sex. And then like, I lost my virginity, and I was drinking, and with her, and I remember, because then I couldn't get it up like all the way, so it was just awkward. It was just like, it just, we
call that
alcohol.
Sorry, listeners, we call that whiskey dick.
Yeah, it just makes it. It's not a match made in heaven.
It's not.
There's a blood flow problem, and you're just like, I should, and then I should know then too.
Yeah,
there's somebody right the other wall. And so there's. And I remember we were at a party drinking one time, and I we were all drinking, and I like my friend. I walk in, and she was giving my friend oral sex. She was like, all these bad experiences around drinking, and I just generally I would just beat myself up and forgive or whatever. Like anytime these things happen,
but these are things that attach to us. These are the things that we talk about in the big book, where we seek sordid places for companionship.
Yeah, and it was, what's interesting is then I, as this was all, I was going to college, and then my friend moved to Denver, and his heroin problem got real bad, and then he got off heroin.
Yay!
So he's good now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, down the road. I think both of us thought we were going to be dead before 27.
We were all going to be dead by 27.
We're gonna.
And then when you hit 27, it's 30. Then it's 35.
So then I remember one time I came to Denver. I was like knocking on his window. I was like, I know you're in there, dude. Like, because he had these candles lit in his apartment. I wasn't answering. And he told me later, he was like, I was there. I was just ashamed because I was just doing heroin. And he's like, I didn't answer the call.
Yeah.
So then, so I ended up moving with him. And then my two friends, I used to sell drugs in high school, but they had stopped. I moved in with them to Denver. I had like $32 to my name. And I just had a bag of clothes, and I was like, let's make this happen. And I did. I started working at a coffee shop at the time, got back into school, and then I met this woman, and she was really put together. So she had graduated from she graduated from an Ivy League school.
Okay.
Was like from like put together family. I just like, and so then I didn't like do drugs or drink around her. Like the temptation wasn't there. Like part of it was I was like, I could lose this person
Yeah.
if I pull this shit, and I don't have time. And then I was working full time and school full time.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have time. And there'd be occasions, and I remember she called it on that. And we dated like 3 years. She was like, "Hey, like, do you think you're alcoholic?" Because I would get like on my day off, and I had like nothing to do.
Yeah.
I would just get a bottle of whiskey and get drunk.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, this is fun." And she's like, "You think you're an alcoholic? Because that's kind of bad behavior." She's like, like AA might be good for you. I remember her saying that. And then when I finally joined AA, it was like, what?
Well, how did she know? Did she have a family member that she'd been through before? Or she obviously knew something you didn't know.
Looking back, I don't know, because like her family didn't have. They were like, they had some wine drinkers in there that were, but like never. It was only on the week, like it was that more traditional drinker stuff, like the regular people,
the kind that drink like half a glass of wine.
Yeah, and they'll leave it. Yeah. They won't just chug it at the end because they don't want to waste it.
Right.
Like you can't waste that glass.
We call that alcohol abuse.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I was like, yeah, she called it on that, which was interesting. But during that time too, one of my friends that sold heroin in high school, he's like one of my closest friends. He's like a free spirit, like musician, great guy. He overdosed on heroin, and at that time, and then that my girlfriend at the time, her mom, then had a glioblastoma brain cancer, and then she died, and then my grandma died. So like it was just this story.
That was not an easy year for Johnny.
Yeah. So during that time, so then we broke up. She's like, honestly, she's like, I don't feel anything right now because my mom just died.
Yeah.
Like, understand, like when people's mothers die, it's like their whole world and their emotional.
I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah. So she was like, I can't feel anything. Like I gotta do this I don't have time for someone else, to be honest. She's
being
like,
honest. Yeah.
And I was just an overly emotional person. So like,
yeah, I understand that.
Time. She's like, I'll just be real. I don't have time for your emotions. Like,
yeah.
It was honestly the best breakup I've ever had because we sat down for like 2-3 hours and she like laid out, and I was like, yeah. So whenever I'd like after
she was emotionally healthy. Wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she was in therapy. She got me in therapy too.
Good for her.
Yeah, I was like, this is just a good person. So then I was like, anytime I would think back, I was like, well, what if, like the what ifs? It was like, no, she explained that. And it would like be like, oh no, that makes sense. That checks out. Yeah, I wouldn't deal with my shit either. She's right. Like, it was like a lot easier to just be able to let go.
Yeah, than it was to
I mean, no. Yeah, not easy. So then how I coped with all those things kind of happened once was I bought a ticket to Europe. I just saved up. I like lived off no money for like a while.
Wow.
Like that. And then I went to Europe, and for like $4,500, I was there for like 2 months.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I just stayed in like the worst hostels.
Yeah.
But then it was always like I'd made shit happen while I was there. And that's where like my drinking got worse real quick was I would go out there and I would go out to the bars and drink and then like meet a woman and like go back and I would then have sex and like I was like, this is great. Like I just go out, I drink, I fuck.
Yeah. Living the life.
Yeah, I was like, this is fun. Like I was like, this is a cool Brazilian doctor in Ireland, like, and then I know I ended up doing, it's like, there was a few I don't know. I won't go into details. Anyway, it
Right
was
for the
like,
better.
yeah, it's the whole thing. But anyway, it was fun. I mean, it was fun and it was like hilarious stuff. And then I got back and I had just been hanging out with like Italian dudes while I was there the whole
Okay.
time too. And I got back to the US and I was just like, holler, 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 like, and like no feelings hurt if I get denied.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care, you know? And so then I just went out to a lot of bars,
Yep.
and kept just sleeping around. And it just like it emotionally didn't make me feel any
No.
better. And it was just numbing pain and my like desire for companionship. And the whole time, like my soul was just withering away.
You were
my
dying
spirit,
inside.
yeah, my spiritual sickness was just getting worse and with every drink, with every hookup, it was just getting worse, less and less, and I was just feeling worse about myself. And then I was still in college at the time. I had switched I was like, it was like my 7th year.
Yeah.
And I was working full time in college full time, and then I started bartending. So then I started making a lot of money, and I was like, I don't need to finish this college thing.
And free drinks.
And kind of what happened, it was like all I had actually, it was, there's this woman I've kind of had like a romance with over like a decade, I guess.
Okay.
So I was coming from her place to go to college and school. I don't know why I was like, I changed the word. I was going to school. So yeah, the university. So I get a call from my mom, and she's like, "Hey, uncle, like your uncle has the same brain cancer, glioblastoma brain cancer." So we knew what that meant.
Okay.
Fuck, my uncle knew what it meant. And I remember just like, I was like, I'm not going to class that day. And I like dropped out like right then. I was like, all right, like I finished that semester and I just didn't re-enroll.
Okay.
I maybe one more class. I actually gotta read that. Anyway, timeline doesn't, right around that.
Okay.
I was like, I'm just gonna bartend. I was like, I'm happy, I'm making money.
Yeah.
I had what I thought relative happiness. It wasn't happy.
Yeah, well, it's because you don't understand happiness yet. You were still naive to what actually happiness was.
No, like no serenity, just a relative happiness to what was previously there. Yeah. So then start bartending and start just drinking more and more and more. And then I started doing cocaine, kind of naturally in that atmosphere. There's a lot of cocaine.
Oh yeah.
So that makes you just drink more.
I drank like a fish when I was on coke.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm fucking set. Yeah, let's just like your body is just.
It's 7 a.m.
Oh
I
yeah,
hated
sunrise.
that. I hated it.
The sunrise, and you're just like, oh, your face is just vibrating.
Yep.
The worst. And so that like kind of just, it would get, basically I would always get worse, and then I would like stop drinking and doing coke for like a month.
Okay.
I'd be like, oh, I need to take a break. And people would be like, you're really good about taking breaks. And there was just other people who were similar.
You.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, man, that's like crazy. You could just take breaks. Like, that's really healthy. Yeah. And I'm like, relatively, that's ridiculous. I was like, it's not.
Fuck the fact that cocaine is asymptomatic,
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, man. So it, I kind of, and then anytime I would do that, I would get very anxious and then irritable the whole time.
Yeah.
And then that would kind of subside, and then a stressful event would happen in my life. And drink, and then it would come back, and I would just be balls to the wall again.
Mm-hmm.
First night back.
I bet each time it took more and more and more, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah. I get worse with it. And then around that time too, my brother was going through a lot mentally, and he attempted suicide.
Okay.
And I remember him being like, "You weren't there for me," during that, when people later I would understand that more. Okay. After you attempt suicide, there's a lot of shifting anger.
Okay.
so at one point he expressed that to me, and I remember that stuck with me. Where I was like, I'm not a good brother. Like and I mean, honestly, looking back, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Just wasn't. I was out drinking, doing drugs, trying to have sex, just living like this. Like, but one of my neighbors called it. He's like, "You're like a stray cat, man. You're just a stray cat. You know,
Yeah.
you'd find a warm bed for the night.
Yeah.
You had a home." He's like, "You just fucking."
And we love being called that too. We love being.
Yeah,
love it.
I know. And I was
We
like,
love it
I
when
was
people
like,
call us precocious.
yeah. And so, but as a family member, as a
Yeah.
brother, a stray cat isn't a great brother.
Nope.
And so from there, I had like a few tumultuous relationships, but before kind of a string of those, I was like, I was at the bar I worked at. My homie and I would go there like and
Sure.
Drink late at night and do drugs. And he and I were just like there doing coke, drinking, and I rode my bike home. I had my helmet in my backpack, and I got hit by a car.
Oh.
Hit and run. It was like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And I had a subdural hematoma.
Wow.
And what's crazy is I fell asleep that night, and I woke up and I was like, "Oh my god, this is the worst hangover." And I'm looking around, and there's just blood in my bed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm hurting. And it's like, you know, because your body, I had a broken shoulder. And so when I called a friend and she took me to the hospital, well, first to the urgent care, and then they're like, you got blood in your ear. Like, you got to go.
Yeah. It's urgent care is not where you belong.
She was like, well, because I passed all the concussion tests or whatever. And my friends and I used to joke, was like, oh, it's because you used to be drunk. Anyone who's drunk can pass a concussion test. Like some point of pride.
Yeah.
And it's so stupid. What the fuck? So don't have pride in that, please. Pride somewhere else. Put it somewhere else. So then, yeah, that was scary. So then after that, I was sober for a few months, and my life like dramatically improved. Right.
Okay.
And it's interesting because my life seemed pretty great. Like to me, it seemed great, and I was like, "Oh, financially, I'm doing well. I could get what I want. Like I buy what I'm never hurting, you know." And I have a lot of friends and blah blah blah. And I thought my family relationship was good. It wasn't great, and so I thought it was like, but that getting hit by a car. So then I stopped drinking. It was super healthy, and then it was like one night, it was like near my birthday, and I was like, oh, I was like, I kind of want to see, like, it was like, am I able to drink again?
Yeah. It's
like
been
this
a while.
Like, I wonder if I could drink again. Like maybe I can.
Now that I know myself better.
Yeah, I was like, now
better, I could probably drink again.
So then I took a shot of Fernet, like of all things, because I was like, it's like a healthier.
I relapsed on a Coors Light, so I hear you.
Yeah, I was like Fernet, and like yeah, and then I was drinking. It was like Fernet and Bud Lights. It was such a weird
combination.
Yeah, I loved Bud Lights. I called them vanilla. I was like, oh my god, I was like, they taste like vanilla. They're a perfect beer.
Yeah,
Bud Lights. Which was funny. I was like a bartender who was like people like knew as like a cocktail. Like, they're like, oh my god, like I did really well at that, at bartending and bar managing. I was mentioned in a magazine before and shit and whatever. But my favorite drink was Bud Light.
Yeah.
I was like I fuck with Bud Light hard. And so I did that. And it was like for like a week I was like tame. And then I remember then it was like one night I was there, and the next thing I know, I'm drinking and doing acid. And then there was this friend of mine. She's an alcoholic too. I think. I mean, I don't want to. It's never fun. Never good to label other people. But she would always come over, and she was always pretty drunk. But I guess during that time in which I was sober, she had said she fell in love with me. So then when I was drunk, we like made moves, and then we had this very tumultuous argumentative relationship for like a year, where either one of us would get drunk,
and
or both of us and just get in
Into fights.
drag out
Yeah.
verbally abusive fights.
Yeah.
I always remember the abuse she gave me, and then looking back, I was like, I was sure I was giving it.
Oh yeah. Maybe
it was
not
like,
physically, but emotionally and mentally. Yeah,
emotionally and mentally, I was giving it back.
Just
I was
as bad.
like,
That's just as bad.
yeah, I was like, I remember finding the texts like a year ago, like looking back through, they're like 7 years old, right?
No.
And finding some of these texts and be like, oh my God, I'm the asshole.
Yeah.
Like, what
A good reminder of what I should not be.
Yeah, I was like, what a shitty that's emotionally abusive.
Yeah.
What I right there.
Yeah.
That is shit. And it's like seeing those texts are horrible. And so then I had that kind of ended finally, thankfully, and then her and I were luckily able to preserve a friendship because we were friends before.
Okay, good.
And then I had another relationship after that then ended because I continued drinking.
Yep.
My drinking got way worse at this place. That
but
and
it's because you were drinking on the fuckets now.
Yeah. We called it the fuckets.
Yeah.
And I was actually like, I had friends. We were like, "Yo, today's a fuck it day."
Yeah. Fuck it day.
We about to fuck it up. Like that, just nothing.
Yeah.
We just would get drunk, do drugs, and eventually I ended up cheating on my girlfriend at the time while I was drunk with this other girl that I worked with, and then just like
that was it.
Ditching that situation. Like what I mean, like is then it was like I just like was like I'm just gonna cut it off, but it just tore at me. I was like, what kind of horrible human am I that I just cheated on somebody?
Exactly, on somebody that I love.
Yeah, and then once again, I'm lucky. Like she's still a friend of mine, but it was horrible. And every morning I woke up, it was like the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of piece of shit am I to do that to that person, my friend, who like amazing. And it just ate at me every day. So then it's then in the next, so then it was 2019, and the people I kind of started rolling with and hanging out with, we would like go in the basement and play dice and drink after we worked.
Okay.
Which seemed fun, and I remember it was just kind of dark. And some of them ended up like they would smoke crack. I did. They're like, we're gonna smoke cocaine off the foil. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Smoking cocaine. It's like that's just smoking crack.
Yeah, it's crack.
It's crack.
Call it what you want, white boy, but it's crack.
And then right as it's like that was like peak of my like use. And then of course 2020 hits, pandemic hits, and everything stops. And so like then my drinking had to kind of like stop, and I had to take a pause and I always worked like 60, 70 hours.
Yeah.
I was people that just was like, I have to work. As soon as that stopped, I had to look at myself, and I did not like what I saw. I was like, this is not the person I wanted to become. These are not the things I want to do. And so then it got real dark where I just was supremely depressed and suicidal.
Yep.
At that. And I had zero coping skills. Like anything I had learned before that was healthy just was out the window. Yeah. It was and the only one I knew was like drinking and doing coke. Yeah. Like that was it.
That's what, and well, you had been taught that your whole life.
Yeah.
That's how your mom coped with her problems. That's how your dad coped with his problems.
And that was it.
Uncle. I mean, you were taught that.
Yeah. And so then I was in and then I didn't realize like how messed up the relationship I was into, but she was like, she would hit me while she was drunk. Yeah. And like one time her running across the room and kicking me in the chest and being like, I fucking hate you.
Yeah.
And so when you're depressed and suicidal, those things just makes it so much worse. So then I started really considering it, and then I really tried it. I tried to overdose.
Okay.
I got a bunch of Xanax and was it Xanax, proprapanol.
Okay.
And I drank a bottle of Maker's Marks and like it was like 20 something Xanax. And then they took me to the hospital. They pretty much just like charcoal your stomach.
Yep. I woke up with charcoal all over me.
Yeah. Luckily I had a friend contact me at the time. And I had just like, you're in euphoria when you're in this weird state. So then I told them what was happening. And the next thing I know, there's a knock on my apartment door. And it was the police. And they were like, and I remember I was like laughing because it's so weird. You're on all these drugs.
Yeah,
so
you don't know what's going on.
You don't know what's going on. So then they took me to the hospital. And that oddly enough, at the hospital, one of the nurses was someone I used to work with.
What?
Decade prior.
Oh, what? At the bar or just another job?
No, at the coffee shop.
Oh, okay.
So she was like, hey, like, oh my God, she'd become a nurse. And I was like, oh shit, what's up? And she's like, I would ask how you're doing.
But
and she's like, look, like, don't let them know we know each other. Because then I can't watch you.
Conflict of interest.
Yeah, so she's like, but here, like, and so we
do that stuff for each other.
Yeah, so she looked out, and then so she had to like spend, they have to spend 24 hours with you in the room while you recover.
Yep.
And we just watched TV and shit. And the interesting part was like the trip of overdosing. There's that euphoria part.
Yep.
And then the part where your body actually starts to fail.
Yep.
And that is not fun. That is the noises. It's like I tell people and that's when I knew something was extremely wrong spiritually because I thought I was going to hell.
Yep.
Like these noises are not heavenly. These are hellish.
Okay.
I'm on my way to hell.
Yeah.
I remember that sticking out like a lot. And there were some funny moments in the hospital room where she was like, I used to have a crush on you, and back in the day, I was like, well, how's this for a first date? Like, shit. So then
after with the girls on his freaking deathbed.
I know. I was like, and I was like, when I started doing my inventory too, I mean, I kind of knew it already. I was like, I got a sex problem too. I'm a relationship addict, a sex addict, a coke addict, alcohol, all these things. Just wind them up. So it's like a nice little crochet blanket of addiction.
Yeah.
They all intertwine. So after that, I was sober for 3 months.
Okay.
And it kind of was, it was like getting a lot better. And then I remember thinking I could do weed again.
Okay.
Weed's actually like where it all started back when I was younger.
Yep, that's your. It's actually your DOC is what we call it, drug of choice.
Yeah, that's my drug. Yeah, so I started that, and within a week started drinking again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I, for some reason, I was like I still wasn't like hanging out with my like abusive ex.
Okay.
And so then I had this night where I went out. I got wasted and like went to her place, and she was like, "I'm not letting you in. Like you're wasted. Like you just relapsed. Like I'm
smart girl.
Whatever." Yeah. So then she was like, "Fuck that." She's like, "You're being ridiculous." And so she called the cops, and they take you to
the drunk tank.
Well, and they're like, "You're suicidal too. Like we're taking you to the."
So they took you back to the hospital.
Yeah, they were like, all right, you got to go back to the hospital. I was like, and so I didn't even know what happened because I got drunk enough that I didn't even know that I went to her place.
Yeah.
That I went from being I went from being at a bar to being in the hospital.
Yeah.
In the psych ward. I was like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yep.
And you hear screams everywhere.
How the hell did I end up here? How did I get here?
Yeah, how the hell did I end up here? But it was bad because like right when I was there, I was like, fuck this, I'm killing myself. Yeah. And I had they put you in a room by yourself, so
you don't even get shoelaces.
Yeah, you're hungover. You're fucking suicidal. What are you gonna do for that 12 hours or whatever?
Yeah.
You're gonna think about all like you're. And I was like, as soon as I get out, I'm gonna
Yeah,
try and kill
they
myself.
sit there and leave you alone to let you think about how you can get it done. It's great stuff. I'm not big on
It
it.
works really well.
I'm not happy with. I don't like our system. I think we could do better. But
No, I once I started getting better, I was looking at that. I was like, how the fuck does that make any sense?
yeah,
Like, it's not palatable.
it's the illusion that we live in.
Yeah, they're like, well, they're not held accountable because you didn't kill yourself while you were there because they put you in a room you can't kill yourself in.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucked up. Right. And so then after that, I was like, all right. And then I had this like idea, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start trying to say goodbye in weird ways to my friends before I do it. Yeah. So the next month was that. And then I was like, I'm going to drink one last time before I go out. And there was so it was a few days after my birthday, and thank you. So I then did my one last drink, and it was bad. It was at my parents' house because they were watching me, and they're like, "He's suicidal." I had to be.
Somebody
there.
had to watch you. Yeah.
No, they were like, "You got to watch him," and my parents knew. They're like, "He's gonna kill himself."
You were probably released into their custody.
Yeah, that was exactly. Yeah. I was released into their custody, and so then from there, I got wasted, and then I was like, I'm gonna kill. Then I was like, I thought before that I had booked a hotel room nearby so I could sneak out and hang myself there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been practicing hanging myself so I could get the right angle. And they basically got drunk and started fucking all that plan up.
Yeah.
And so then my dad wouldn't let me leave the house. Basically, a big argument ensued. And then we fought. I wouldn't hit my dad, so he was just hitting me. And it was bad. And he was like, "You're gonna give me a heart attack." And I was like, "I'm just gonna leave."
Yeah.
And he was like, "I can't do this." So then I just left. And it was snowing that night. So I'm out in this snowstorm, and I take my belt and I go down to this park. I just was trying to find a tree, something, and I hung myself on the swings. So on the bar above the swings, and got up, hung myself, and miraculously, this is fucked up. A guy in the suicide ward right after that was like, "Well, you got to tie your hands when you do that, because your arms, as soon as you hit a certain point,
it's gonna be natural reaction."
Yeah, it's a natural reaction, and so as you're up there, and I remember having this like out of body experience where you're like seeing it all play out.
Yeah.
And I remember it was so quiet, and I got out miraculously, and then I was on the ground, and I was in the snow, and it was just blowing snow, and this is midnight, and it was the elementary school I went to.
Okay.
And I remember looking around, and it's like it was quiet and like peaceful, and I looked around, and it was like I remember seeing feeling myself as a kid, and I was like seeing him crying.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't let this kid die.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I can't let this child die like that.
Man.
Like I got to take care of you.
Yeah.
And I was like, just looking, and it was like there where I was like in elementary school, and seeing the baseball field. And I was like, and I remember it being peaceful and quiet when I was watching myself go through that. And I was like, I have to change. So then I was like, I got to go back. And I walked back home. My parents are crying. And then I was like, okay, fuck. I was like, I got to get better. I was like, I have to get better. I was like, I'll do anything.
Wow. So
then we went to a facility, and I was there for a week.
Okay.
There's weird COVID restrictions.
Yeah, there was a lot of odd stuff going on with treatment.
Yeah, and I mean, like, when you read all the stats about like more people killing themselves or things like that during COVID, you're like, yeah, because like you couldn't get any true care.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't stay at places long enough. He couldn't there weren't enough staff because of
Yeah.
COVID.
And then all the isolation that we had to deal with.
Yeah, and so, but this place I went to, their name changed. I forget what it is
Okay.
now. But anyway, it was great. It was really rough to deal with like the consequences of my actions.
Oh yeah.
Beds and it's hard to sleep. All these things are happening. But I remember then I started when I was in there. I started like really journaling. I tried journaling before, and I really started. And the people I met, like they actually cared. The staff like actually seemed to care. Yeah. There were people in there who were in there like the third or fourth time.
Sure.
And they were like, honestly, it's because I feel safe here. They're like, I'll come back here because if I'm ever feeling suicidal, I'll come back to this facility because it's the only place that makes me feel better. I was like, damn, this place got some magic.
Yeah.
So then I went, so that helped a bunch. And then they had made a list of a bunch of AA meetings.
Okay.
And other Wellbriety, other things.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and they actually had options. So once I got out, they're like, we're gonna have like a sort of intensive outpatient, like plan set up for you. Like you're gonna need, and and it was like a mixture of what I had just been trying to, because before that I had been trying to seek therapy too, but I wasn't telling them. I had no honesty about stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for a therapist to help you if you're not being honest.
Not being honest and just not really doing like the actual work every day, the self-talk and everything else. So then in there, I was like, I gotta attack this. Like I have like 2 full-time jobs, and that full-time, those are both me, like getting like myself so much better. So then when I got out, I started attending all those virtual meetings that they had made lists of.
Yeah.
And it at first is crazy because like looking back how sick I was.
Yeah.
Because my inability to like really listen, and like it was so hard for me to like listen to a share for like 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I would in and out of it.
That's
like,
why we keep our shares to 3 to 5 minutes, because the newcomer can't understand beyond that. That's why.
No, exactly. I mean, really. And at that point, I had multiple times in which I had months before that.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So it's not necessarily the chemicals that were preventing me.
Yeah.
It was the thought patterns and the spiritual problems I had.
Your head.
Yeah. I was like, this was a thinking problem.
Yeah.
Like more than a chemical problem.
Yeah.
Like this is like
I went to AA for my drinking problem and took care of my thinking problem.
That is so true. Because I had such a deep thinking problem and such a deep spiritual problem, and I had to solve that. So then and it really, and I made sure I remember reading Marsha Linehan books, and because I started going to DBT therapy.
Okay.
Dialectical behavior therapy is great for trauma.
It is. So, yeah. I do EMDR. I understand.
Yeah, I do EMDR too.
Yeah, I love it.
It helped me just like really get through, because at that point I had just fully stopped even telling anyone about any of the shit I've been through. It'd be like, yeah, my friends are dead, but I wouldn't talk about the car accident. If I got hit by a car, my parents' stuff.
Okay.
That was just walled off.
You wouldn't talk about that yet.
Well, and the people I started associating with too, they were like, everyone goes through shit. It was that type of thing. Like everyone's got their problem. It's like, who cares? Your problems aren't worse than other people's. Which, I mean, but everyone's problems is worse. Because you're experiencing it. That's it right. Is worse.
I tell people it only affects you when it hurts.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why homelessness is still the way that it is, because it doesn't affect people like it should in order for us to be motivated to do something about it. So
not in my backyard. Where is it
Exactly.
NIMBY?
And actually, I'd let anybody sleep in my backyard. I don't care.
Yeah, you're like, all right, I got a lock on my door.
I got a pretty big backyard too. So
So yeah, so then I started going to like 3 meetings a day.
nice.
Yeah, it was 7, noon, and 3, and then or 7 or like noon, 3, and 5:45.
Okay.
I was lucky. I had saved up enough money before then to not work for a bit
Nice.
and just I still kept my apartment in Denver, but I was able to just live with my parents.
Okay.
So they watch me, make sure I didn't kill myself.
Yeah.
Because I was still very suicidal.
And you're still very suicidal. And I don't care how old you are, when you first get into sobriety, you need to be accountable.
Yeah.
You need it. And being accountable requires other people.
Oh, and I mean, it helped. Like, my mom, she's got a sensitive sniffer. She's like, you need to shower now. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, you need to like do this. I was like, okay.
Like my mom, man.
I remember I went to the dentist and they're like, you got like gingivitis or whatever. Like, you got this. Cause I was drinking, you don't brush your teeth. You're too drunk to brush your teeth.
Yeah. And alcohol is 90% sugar.
Yeah. So, of course. So then I just was like, I'm going to take care of my teeth a ton and stuff. And now they're great.
Yeah.
So, and my gums are great. I was like, damn, you just actually have to have a healthy routine.
Yeah.
But so all these meetings, and I met these people, and I jumped right in. I was less than a month. I got a sponsor.
Yeah.
I was lucky then. It was a lot of people on the online. There's no in person. So
yeah. Everything was Zoom at that time. There was no in persons.
Yeah. So I found a great sponsor and started working the steps and started chairing meetings.
Yep.
Early on too, because a lot of people. It was an interesting time where a lot of people didn't know how to do the virtual format. And for some reason, I was like, this is easy. Like, you just do this button.
Yeah, so, you read.
They let me do it early because usually you have to have like a sponsor and a lot of groups have like stipulations.
Yeah, we had to make some changes, but that's how AA works, man.
Yeah. But I was lucky because it made me and when I first started chairing meetings, I would like really think about them before I have stuff written up for to say, and like I was like researching how to chair a meeting.
Yeah.
Like, what do people do? You say stuff to people? Do you do this?
Sure.
Like, what
you were being astute. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I had all these windows up on alcoholism and like quotes from people who've worked 12 steps and stuff, and I just was like a student of it.
Yeah,
and I was just
that's awesome.
And and then like combining it, and there was a few people I became friends with in there who they were in DBT also, and they loved Marsha Linehan.
Okay,
they're like, she's the shit. She's and I read her autobiography, her book, Life Worth Living. Great book, and one of the things was I had to read for over an hour every day.
Okay,
I made these stipulations for myself. I was like, I have to have over 4 hours of recovery a day.
Huh?
I have to have meetings and books and writing in my journal.
Yep.
So I was crushing that for like at least 90 days. Even when I started working again, and I lucked out because I used to work in construction when I was younger, and my brother's best friend started a remodeling business right before the pandemic.
Okay.
And he's like, I need good help. And he's like, my brother had told him what had happened with me.
Okay.
And he's like, I'll pick him up and drop him off every day.
Yeah.
Let's go. And so he would pick me up. We'd go work like 8-10 hours.
Yeah.
And he'd drop me off. And it was good because the only thing he does is smoke weed sometimes, occasionally.
Yeah.
He's like way more under control. Well, around me, he was like, oh, I need to be under control. And it helped him with his thing. But we naturally, it was kind of great because I was remodeling myself and then I was remodeling houses. So every day was this, and he and I, we'd have to wake up early and you'd be on these long 45-minute hour drives to places.
Yeah.
And we just talk about spirituality, recovery, like what's going on. So I was able to work through so much that like it was like me and him having like a sponsorship
yeah.
sort of with each other where we were like, we're going to set intentions for our day. We're going to do this. And he was a military guy. He's an Army guy. And we're like,
unstructured.
Yeah, we were like intentions, like, and we're going to talk about like, and then if we're going to discuss the book we're listening to on tape, and help me grow like intellectually and spiritually a lot. And then of course, when you're working with your hands and like other stuff, it keeps in my head that would get distracted before. I'm like, no, I got to saw, I got to pay attention,
And then that way your subconscious can work your problems out. That's how it works.
Yeah. And it was just great. And I realized like how much I loved like working with my hands then. And I was like, this is something I always loved.
Yeah.
I just, the part I loved the most. I was like, so it all kind of started falling together. And of course, working the steps, doing that helped tremendously spiritually.
Oh, yeah.
And then for me, I never was like I never practiced spirituality. I was like, I guess I kind of believe it. But then I started praying every day, first thing in the morning, last thing at night, praying whenever I could. And for our business partner and I, we would pray in the car together.
Yeah.
He's very religious and spiritual. So
you and I prayed right before we did this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
So that it just helps set your intention and your soul so much more. And I don't think I ever really understood the power of prayers until I started practicing.
Until it had, it's one of those things, and we say it in the big book. It's an experience you must not miss. We can't explain it to you. I can't explain it to you.
No,
it's a feeling. It's a state of being.
And it's like later today I have a friend I'm going to hang out with, and she's like trying to sober up. She's like, oh, I'm going to try. I was like, you should try 6 months.
Yeah.
Try 6 months and pray, like doing these things. I was like, you'll feel better. Like it's until you practice it, you could see people do it, but until you practice it, you don't know the internal.
Exactly.
And I remember it was about 4 months into sobriety. I was like, 4 months. I finally started having like moments of serenity.
Yeah.
And I'd be looking at the clouds, and I was like, I remember being like, holy shit, I don't know if I've ever had this. Like through all the years, maybe on mushrooms or acid or something.
You had it once before that I've caught. And that was the moment that you decided to change your life.
Yeah.
That was serenity and the grace of God falling upon you.
Yeah, and it is. That is exactly. I never put that together.
Yeah,
it actually connected that way because that's the feeling.
That's a spiritual experience.
I spoke at my friend's wedding last week, and I remember before that, or even after, I was like so calm, and I was like, "How is this like now?" Like I used to. I was like, I was just happy for them.
Yeah.
Like I was so happy to be. I was like for everyone there, and I was just like happy for them
because it wasn't like, about you.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then you like go into the meetings and just shut it up and listen. I remember just putting on my headphones and just listening while I'd be like at work, and I'd pop my headphones in and just be listening to a meeting somewhere in the world
or a podcast.
Or pocket, I started listening to podcasts. Whitney Cummings' podcast too. Your podcast, I remember that was one I would listen to. She's a 12-stepper, and I was.
So, what's life like for you now?
Peaceful.
Yeah.
Just like it's. I'm a heavy routine person, so I have like a whiteboard. That I have all my stuff that like it's funny because I work the same time Monday through Friday.
Okay.
And so I work with my hands, and I tire my body out, so sleep is easy. When I first started recovering, I was on why am I forgetting the name of the thing now? Anyway, it was an antipsychotic.
Okay.
It made you sleep. Yeah, so I was on that. That helped me get my sleeping schedule off, and then I slowed it down progressively, and then I was like, oh, I still sleep great. I just have to work out.
Yeah.
And so I got heavy into just making sure I moved my body. So it's this Yeah, I'm way healthier than I was in my 20s,
Oh,
which is
okay.
hilarious. Like I can run longer. I can, I'm more flexible.
Yeah. I
I
remember
feel better.
things.
Oh, the memory, yeah, the journaling and remembering stuff.
Yeah. Um,
And
being able to be present, actually,
yeah,
present and just be who I am. That's
one
that's
like
nice.
now I call my mom every day
Do
and
you? Good for you.
yeah, yeah, because it just I know it makes her feel good. So it drives her crazy when she doesn't hear from her sons. So
Mhm.
I like, okay, because my brother did that,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, it's fucking, and I'm like, it's so easy. I just call,
Yeah, it's not
and I don't
hard.
have shit.
It,
Like I just
but I was talking with a sponsee the other day, and he was saying, because we're going over amends, and he's like, well, I've made one with my aunt and uncle when I did one before. And I don't know that I
Mhm.
really owe him another one. And what we talked about was the fact that his aunt and uncle worried about him and would stay up at night. You know how it is. I get,
Yeah,
I get worried now about my kids and things. And he's like, oh, that makes sense. Just because I didn't do something doesn't mean I
yeah,
didn't affect them.
yeah, and I'd say, and it is awkward to sit there with someone
Mhm.
where you don't necessarily think you hurt them
Yeah,
because we all don't know exactly what's going on in people's feelings and minds,
that's right.
and you have to be considered. It's kind of crazy because it's people won't tell you that they were feeling that way either,
No, they
or
won't.
that they don't want you to know that you hurt them.
Yeah,
I don't want people to know that they hurt
yeah,
me, because we naturally don't want to feel like burdens.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's like a thing that's ingrained in us
Then
is don't be.
And especially with us alcoholics, we're people who are so dependent on other people all of our lives for our own emotions. This is a big deal to start
Yeah,
taking responsibility for our own emotions.
yeah. Well, and like I actually am responsible now, where it's like all my student loan bills are on time,
Yeah,
like other shit like that. But also just cleaning around
yeah.
oh man, I
Kitchen
talk about
clean, house is clean.
keeping. Yeah, there's nights I get home and I was like, I said I was gonna clean the bathroom. I'm gonna clean the bathroom. I told myself I would do that.
Yeah.
I was like, I know I'm tired, but I told myself I would do that. So I
Oh,
gotta hold
if
myself.
you promise yourself something, you better follow through.
You better follow through.
Yeah,
And it gets easier the more you follow through.
yeah.
It's like accumulating experiencing points in a video game. I've gotten this skill better. That's the way I look. I'm like, I gotta improve this skill
I've
of
been
account.
playing Dungeons and Dragons since 1979. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we won't go
Yeah.
there though. We won't talk about how Dion invented LARPing and stuff. We're not going to cover that today. I didn't invent it. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't write a whole book about it, but
You're like, I did do it.
I did. I wrote a book, and I've got a piece of paper that says I did. So there. Johnny, it's been wow, what a fantastic story.
Thanks for having me on
Oh,
here and letting me
absolutely.
talk for an hour. Shit.
We're at an hour and 8 minutes right now.
Yeah. I thought 20 minutes in me.
Well, for somebody that didn't have much to say, you sure had a lot to say.
Yeah.
And what that does, it just tells me, what that tells me is the way we do podcasts is the correct way. That's what it says to me.
Yeah.
I love talking with like-minded people. And I think with your story, what's really important for people to know is that you're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of loneliness in your story and
Yeah.
a lot of feeling a part of. And we tend to do that to ourselves by, saving up money and leaving for a few months to Europe.
Yeah.
We do things and people call us strange, but we think we're living normal lives.
Yeah.
And then one day we sit down and we get in recovery and we start reading old texts and going, no, that's not how life is lived. It's not how it's done. I'm a much happier person today now that I've taken responsibility for my actions and my emotions, and I've done the work. I've done the work. I've done the 12 steps. I've completed them. And now I'm in the maintenance. Now I'm in maintenance. So
yeah. The 2+ years of sobriety I have feel better than and feel longer than the 30+ years before.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Time relative that way.
Yeah.
It's like
When you're involved with life and not avoiding it, it becomes something much different for us. So thank you again, Johnny. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Dean.
Absolutely. Thank you for my audience today for joining us. Today we had Johnny on, and I just kind of want to reinforce that you are not alone. Okay. That you may be going through some problems that you feel are unique, but you're not so unique that other people do not understand. So I know that it can be tough, but please ask for help. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This has been a Trudging Together, the Raw Recovery at Trudging Together podcast. My name is Dion. I love you. Peace out and have a day.